Hello and welcome to the second part of the Kent edition of the Roundtable Roadshow, where Hoteliers Voice got together a group of general managers in and around Kent to talk about some of the challenging issues in our industry. In this episode, we look at experience and how to optimize revenue across a country house hotel resort. We'll hear from Paul Wells of Studio Moren, Geraldine Brennan from Oracle, as well as revenue experts from BiteLux and Upsell Guru, before we hear from the hoteliers themselves as to the challenges across the business for generating revenue, but also opportunities that they identify within the guest journey.
Hotelier's Voice, exploring opportunity in hospitality with Ryan Haynes. Hear from the people making a difference. From revenue to operations, marketing to digitalization, learn the thinking behind their decisions.
So first, if I get Paul up here, please. You look at space. There's a lot of space here. One of the biggest spaces we've perhaps come to so far. There's a lot of opportunity really across large grounds to make use of it, commercialize it, and also be thinking about how you can improve the experience for residents and guests.
Yes. Sorry.
Continue.
Continue. Keep speaking.
The statement.
So we work across the hospitality sectors. We do a lot of work across. We're working with Warner Hotels for a moment across several of their properties, and it's interesting how different hotels approach gaining a better use of their land and the space they have. So Warner is very much closed door as far as they don't really welcome day guests. They don't really welcome weddings. They don't welcome weddings at all, actually. Whereas majority of country house hotels are focused on weddings, and it's a very different sector. But there's no reason why you can't combine several different uses on a site. So one of the sites we're looking at, it's not very far from here actually. We were looking at doing a whole range of activities, including open water swimming, building a yoga retreat, which could double up as a venue, putting in boathouses, putting in sky lodges or star gazing lodges. And actually, I think one of the things I was reading an article recently about the positive nature of a dark sky, which the majority of people in the UK don't experience. And actually coming to the countryside and experiencing a dark sky is incredibly good for your well-being. And actually, I think that whole experience is something which we've been talking about a lot recently, and certainly since COVID, we've been talking about the UK experience market. But we also talk about wellness and actually that sense of well-being, which doesn't have to be a massage and a jacuzzi, much as that's lovely too. It's also about mental wellness and just getting away from your mobile phone. So actually, there's not really any phone signal here if you don't have Wi-Fi. That's not a bad thing. I know that goes against all the tech stuff that people are talking about, but actually, sometimes being disconnected is an experience in itself. So we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about how they can sort of really draw on what makes their hotel or location special. And sometimes it is being disconnected, sometimes it is wedding venues. And I think you just have to have the correct market approach for wherever you are. But wedding venue doesn't necessarily just work. And neither does a stargazing pod, and neither does an open water swimming if your pond is full of weed. So you've got to think about what's right and what fits, and we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about that.
Yes, it's a lot of conversation in that case because there are country house hotels that can't build any further, aren't going to get the planning permission, don't have the grounds to be able to do that. But as you say, there are experiences that you can create that doesn't require a huge amount of physical infrastructure in order to make that work.
Yeah.
And it's not just looking at the market, but it's also looking at that location and the vicinity and what you've got around it for that. Where do you start with rethinking that space?
So obviously our first approach as architects and interior designers is, what can we build? Because that's how we get paid. And what can we do to enhance a space and an offering? And it might be a refurbishment without any extension is actually a better position to be in. We have an interior design team, so we're very happy to do that. But as an architect, I just want to build stuff. But I also think we have a commercial reality, and there's no point saying to a client, if you build another 100 keys, it's going to be great just because you can. The market might not actually be able to cope with 100 keys. You might never fill it. The optimum figure really for a country house hotel is somewhere between 80 and 120 rooms, depending on your location. Obviously, some operate below, some operate above. Very few country houses really operate above 120 keys unless you've got a huge offering of golf or some major pull to that destination. So actually, it's not always the right aspect. What it might be is rethinking how you use your space and saying, look, you've got 4 event spaces. We're working on a hotel outside Stratford at the minute. The bar's just in the wrong room. If they move the bar, they've got this huge central hallway which everybody moves through, and it's really just a corridor with sofas in it at the minute. We're moving the bar into that space to make it the heart of the hotel, which then frees up the former library that the bar's in to actually be a tea room for afternoon tea and for evening offerings, and actually also for private events. So it's about rethinking what you've got without actually necessarily having to build new spaces.
I say they're in places that are listed, country
Yeah.
houses, especially, considerations around planning permission. What are sort of the main sticking points in really being successful with getting those planning plans through?
So actually, we maybe I've just been lucky, but I feel like we've been pretty successful in working with listed buildings because the one thing we're trying to do with any listed building is ensure its secure future. And usually the planning authorities are quite on board with a development opportunity which will drive potential growth, drive revenue and income into the area, whether that's through employment use or just through guest generation, but also enshrining a future of a building. These houses, they have to keep operating as a commercial use. They're not viable privately anymore. So we've managed to get lifts into grade 2 star listed buildings. We've managed to do developments in grade 1 listed parklands. You know, obviously within reason, we're not building huge buildings, but we're really selling that um, the future of those sites and also what they can contribute to the local market and the planning policies, really.
Excellent. Paul, thank you
Okay,
very much
you're
indeed.
welcome.
But first, we're going to be speaking to Geraldine Brennan from Oracle, looking at the trends in weddings and how to manage them effectively. So, what are we seeing? What are you seeing across the country here in the UK when it comes to weddings?
So for weddings for 2026 and onwards, we're beginning to see that weddings are becoming multiple day events. The traditional 1 day event is kind of on the way out. Wedding couples are looking for wedding weekends. They want between 2 and 4 days. And they want more events. So they're looking for things like rehearsal dinners, parties. They want more activities, spa treatments, gaming sessions, walks, lovely country walks. And there are also, the wedding couple is looking to have like a destination buyout. They want countryside venues that maybe they can get exclusive use in, or they're looking for unique buildings, historic houses. But they also want the boutique hotels at the same time. There's the market for that as well. We're also knowing that the lists are decreasing. There's fewer guests being invited. I think, James, that was one of the things you mentioned earlier today when we were talking about. However, they are spending more per guest, and there's a big emphasis now in having um, personal touches, those luxury items available for their guests as well. So it's kind of a changing market up there.
It takes a lot to manage these events. How can you be effective with the event management on such a large resort?
So, effective event management on a resort comes down to have connecting teams. You need to have processes that work, and you need to have real time visibility. So, with Opera Cloud and Opera Sales Event Management, if your teams can instantly see room availability, they can see the function space availability, they can see all their booking demand. And that means that they can respond to inquiries much faster and also eliminates that duplication of data and reduces the risk of a double booking. If you have all your team accessing the same system, you improve communication, sales, reservations, events, operations, they're all working from that same single source of data. And also it delivers, every little detail is delivered, and executed seamlessly for the guests so they don't see anything happen. But mobility is key there as well. And I think Alessandra mentioned it earlier. Hotel teams need to be able to access and update information no matter where on the property or the resort that they are, and have that flexibility to do it quicker.
Ideal for responding to the shorter booking window, which you seem to be experiencing here at the Kent Edition, but also preventing that those administrative errors and duplication, I guess.
Yes, so technology can help reduce administration errors, especially if you're all working in that same system and not relying on, spreadsheets, email, multiple disconnected systems in your operation. If you have one platform, information gets entered once, it's shared by all the departments out there. There's less chance of inconsistencies, and you're removing that duplication of data entry across the property. But you can also see things better as well in one system. And, as Paul mentioned there about space, you can see that space utilization. You might also identify areas where you could start to make revenue streams and, of course, maximize your profitability in there. But having that one system is a great way to reduce those errors. But ultimately, to reduce administration errors, you need to eliminate the duplicate processes. You need to have one platform. You need to have one system, one source of truth for your property.
Geraldine, thank you very much indeed.
So we started just talking. Well, we talked a bit about spa actually, and about tech. I get a bit lost, I'm afraid, on what we were just the tie up for internal booking systems and how it doesn't seem to exist, and how actually upselling your business through being able to tie in your businesses that even exist on your site is really important. Is that where you were going with that? Yeah. Okay, good. And then we moved on to talking about obviously later bookings on weddings. Everybody seems to be talking about this, how there's a big downturn on the number of advanced bookings for next year, which make it hard to manage your staffing for next year. Are you going to have the business to keep the people in operation? You assume it's going to come later, but is it? So therefore, you're looking to other directions, maybe business and corporate away days from London, maybe 2-day breakaways, and then what that might mean to their experiences while they're here. You talked about lambing and how some of your staff got pulled away to deal with that. And actually, they were like, can we come and watch? Can we get involved? You're like, well, lambing's not really an experience. It's real life in the country. So I guess it's that balance between what you see as something which is just normal for you, that's actually quite unusual for the people that are visiting, and then just general experiences across the site, which might be bike riding or horse riding or something like that. But then also the insurance culpabilities on that if somebody
Let's find a problem for that solution. Yeah, very interesting. And I say, those countryside experiences are being lost. Constantine, if you don't mind me asking you if that's all right, your situation around sort of really trying to understand a problem around spa management.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a problem about the spa management. It's the need of the spa business to actually come digitally and distribution wise as strong as accommodation. Because the spa business is there in UK and is growing year by year. There are a lot of money around. However, the existing systems on the market, they are not as advanced as the ones that are existing in accommodation. And for a lot of people that will wonder where we aim to exactly, it is the so-called best available rate, kind of adjusted for the spa, which exists on accommodation that can be transmitted onto the spa. In other words, for example, if you go on a spa on a Saturday, everywhere people would expect on a room to pay a price. You go on a Monday, you pay a different price. Well, if you try to do this in a spa, you have a big issue. Now, in reality, the spa managers, they do that by promoting those special emails, sending to the close email market, look, take 50% off. So when you draw a line and you want to look as from the revenue perspective, you see, okay, so the team, they kind of do something very incipient as regarded as a bar system, but with a very, very basic knowledge. So what is necessary to be able to go up and say, look, here you go, I want to put the session in the morning, 9 to 11, you want to come to have a treatment, you pay, I don't know, 50 quid, you come up 12 to 4, you pay 70 quid, you go 4 to 9, let's say 100. Well, there is no system on the market to allow you to do that. And if you use the people to do such things, it will cost you much more than running the spa. So that's where the difficulty on the market is, and that's what we see.
Okay, right. So, hello, tech developers, get your acting gear. They're hoteliers. They don't build technology. We need something proper for Spa. All right. Thank you very much, Konstantin. We're looking into revenue, our guests spending more. So, Prem from ByteLux. Firstly, do you want to just explain who ByteLux is?
Yeah, sure. So we are a guest messaging agency, and we help hotels develop a better relationship with their guests whilst driving more ancillary revenue.
So, let's have a look. So, it is about recognizing guests and treating them like a VIP. What's the quickest and easiest approach that you've experienced on that?
Conversational AI unlocks the ability for a hotel to have this ideal pre-arrival VIP conversation with every guest that's arriving at the hotel. And the benefit of that is, other than the guest feeling special because they're going to converse specifically with the hotel about specific details, is from a revenue generation perspective, offering upsells contextually from the report that we pulled has seen an increase in conversion rate of 32%.
Where do you start in order to initiate that IA-led guest messaging?
Yeah, there's low hanging fruit. So there's your purpose of stay, your table bookings, your spa bookings, your room upgrades, and they're definitely great places to start because it builds confidence in the system. Staff get to see how it works. Revenues coming in, hotels get to see what guests are saying in these conversations. And after a few months, what tends to happen is hotels get more adventurous. They begin seeing product opportunity that didn't once exist. So your early check-ins, your late checkouts, your wine of the week, your local experiences. So you don't have to start with this large AI strategy. It's just about getting started with the basics, get the revenue rolling in, and then evolving the conversation from there. One caveat here, the moment that hotels begin using this channel and leading with sales-based messaging first, that reply rate drops quite significantly. So it really does pay to treat all your guests like a VIP.
Excellent, Prem. Thank you very much indeed. Great insights. Okay, I'd like to please welcome new sponsor, Upsell Guru, Renato Machado. Thank you very much. Again, it is all about how do you tap into this additional ancillary revenue?
Correct.
Where's that extra money coming from? Because we might not necessarily seeing ADR go up, but we are potentially able to squeeze the RevPAR. So how can hotels get guests to spend more?
So generally, when anyone is booking something, they have a budget, right? So you're traveling, you have the accommodation, you have the transportation, but we also see kind of the honeymoon phase, which is 5 to 3 days before the arrival. You have a little bit more budget, right? So that's when we actually come in. So trying to offer the right upsell at the right time for the right guest. So it's all about automation, but segmentation as well and personalization. So it's not just like a spamming every single thing to the same guests, but actually making sure that that is relevant to that guest and for an experience.
What are the typical packages that you've seen work and that are actually converting?
So let's go to the most profitable one, which is actually upselling of rooms, right? So when people are doing the bookings, you already have the cost there. So the room actually goes directly to your bottom line. An upsell of a room is not going to increase actually your cost, right? It's already on the reservation phase. But people has a misconception as well of thinking that only if it's a beautiful hotel like this one that has a spa and F&B, you're going to be able to upsell anything. So our team actually helps every hotel to think about a little bit outside of the box and think about the basics, right? Early check-in, late checkout, high floor, different views, garden view, sea view, or anything that actually can get the guests to spend a little bit extra. Packages as well, could be a romantic package or so on. I got some data here that is very interesting. So the top 3 hotels performing better in the UK year to date right now. The early check-in and late checkout, one hotel generated 55K. The other one was the breakfast, which generated 28K. And the other one is parking, actually, which generated 20K. So not only going for 3-course dinner or so on, but also think about what the hotel has to offer. Anything the hotel has to offer, we can try to upsell.
Wow. Okay. So really good insights, and obviously monetary there. From a perspective, okay, what have I got available on the site? What can I do? What I haven't necessarily thought of. Great chance to get the team involved, the wider team. What are they asking when they're on site that you might have missed before, or even tapping into the WhatsApp messaging to see what they're asking to be able to turn that into a product that you can
Correct.
put across your platform. Renato, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
At the hospitality discussion roundtables, we give hoteliers plenty of time to sit around a table and talk about and dissect the issues at hand. Well, we're going to hear from some of the hoteliers to summarize those conversations and what was at the forefront of their minds when it comes to revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't really agree on a product of retail as such, as in branding, apart from you purchasing lots of dog material from the recent state you enjoyed and came out with. But more that we felt that people didn't really want to be told upsells of it costs this, it costs that, it costs this, but it's you can have this is available. Have you thought about this? Did you know you could do this? So whilst they're on site, they can upgrade their experiences here, and people didn't really seem to mind how much they were spending. We perhaps worry that we're trying to oversell to people, that people actually want an experience these days, and to be confident in that we should be telling people that they can have that, they want that experience of sale, the emotional sale, not necessarily the fiscal value straight away to be told that's what it costs. So that was a big outpouring of it as well. Some solutions and systems that Paul mentioned about is in incentivising the staff and the teams to be saying what they've got available, that there's solutions there, again, with technology for staff to earn more money by upselling things and a system to put that in place. And learning from the data and really reading and understanding our data and our markets and our captive markets, that who do we think is our target market may not actually be now in this day and age, that if you're dressed like us in wares that suit our positions, that actually we could have all turned up in tracksuits. Doesn't really matter there could be our audience, they could not be our audience. It doesn't matter stereotype so much anymore to understand what we need to deliver at this day and age to our products and our guests.
Excellent. Mike, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate that summary there. Can I get Dan? Would you mind giving your two pence from this conversation?
I think we had a really good thought-provoking discussion on how we engineer that. I mentioned about the data breach. Obviously, that's been in the news quite recently over the last 6 to 7 months. And as a end consumer, if you're booking an accommodation piece, a hotel, how does the guest then see and those sort of ITs and how they interlink? And if I, as a guest, is booking somewhere and then getting 5 or 6 different channels, it sort of sends alarm bells. Also, we're hoteliers. IT is not our thing. We serve people, and that's where we have all these different types of businesses offer, and all we want to do is just work the best for our people, our guests. And there's generally some concerns on how we can better that. And like I say, yeah, it's so thought provoking. There's definitely sources out there, but how do we funnel that into making the best right commercial decision for us, our teams, and our ultimately our guests?
How do you try to get a better understanding of that?
We were on point, Nard. Just trying. I suppose it's just experience, isn't it? Trust, relationships, relationship building. You work with suppliers, and again, it's our business is all over people, so that with suppliers, guests, team, customers, and it's about building those relationships and trust. So yeah,
thank you very much
Thanks.
indeed. Over on this side, Daniel, could I be able to get to you to summarise what was on there?
Yep. Okay. Our conversation was more about branding specifically, and then the value versus expense. And I think that was because here around our table, we've got hoteliers which have got brands already. Myself with Best Western, you've got Champneys, and independent hoteliers as well without a big global name. So we were talking about the pros and cons, and the fact that at the end of the day, there isn't a one solution fits all. Some properties, the big, what I call the big boys, your Marriotts, your Accords, your Hiltons, your IHGs, some of those brands will be really good for those sorts of properties in certain locations, but for other ones they won't be. But then it's talking about, in particular, on the pros and cons, what do the brands bring with regards to certain customer expectations, certain loyalty programs, which are really strong with many of these brands, some stronger than others. And I mentioned about the conversation I've had over the years with many hoteliers that have switched from one brand to another, or from non-brand to brand or brand to non-brand, and the difference that they see, how it converts from a financial point of view. Typically, it can be an uplift of anything from £10 to £20 net average room rate. So there are significant differences in what a brand can deliver financially. And James was saying here, for example, with Champneys in particular, what the brand brings from additional sales in the retail side of the hotel mix here, and that roughly 35% of the business mix here, the turnover, is as a result of the spa. So yeah, it's interesting how there are differences across the different hotels and with what they offer, but also the fact that in order to be able to get to some of those brands, the expense involved in becoming a Hilton Tapestry, for example, the expenditure is significant. So it's trying to value the commercials of if you can justify that expenditure to get to that brand, will it actually pay for itself in the long run? Is the market there for it? Will you get a return on that investment? That was more the depth of our conversation with regards to the branding specifically, and the value and what it brings and what people expect out of brands.
Risk involved, isn't there, in everything?
Risk.
A lot of decision making there, but thank you very much indeed. Could I just get you up here, James, as a finale? James, from this event today, what are some of your key takeaways? What's it got you thinking about for here?
I think particular interest to me was the comments around the wedding market, the meetings, events, having Hosper in the room has been particularly interesting. We're not members of Hosper myself. I'm not a member of Hosper myself, so that's not a piece of network that I've had much dealings with. So that's been really, really interesting. I've loved speaking, particularly with that last conversations around the brands. Brands is where I came from many years ago at the beginning of my career, so it was nice to turn that bit of my brain on again, and have the conversations and sort of catch up about that. But I think the topics have been spot on, exactly what I was hoping we would sort of get into and discuss when we first started talking about today, and I hope everyone else in the room finds the same thing, that there's been some benefits for everyone.
And thank you very much to James McComas for hosting us at Champneys Eastwell Manor for the Roundtable Roadshow. We then went to Kensington, London, so that edition is coming out very soon. We are now in the process of planning our next leg, where we will be going north to visit Sheffield and Durham. So please check out those dates either on LinkedIn, Hotelier's Voice, or hoteliersvoice.com. You can always get in contact with me, Ryan, at hoteliersvoice.com. If you'd like to attend one of these roundtables, hoteliers and hospitality operators get a seat completely for free. Or you might want to host one of these roundtables and get together hoteliers and hospitality operators from across your local region. Love to hear from you, because we are planning 2027. Thank you to every single hotelier that joined us on the day at Eastwell Manor. It was an absolute fantastic conversation that we had, and what a beautiful venue. I urge you to go and visit if you haven't already. My name's Ryan Haynes. I've been your host. Thanks for listening. This is Hotelier's Voice. Ciao for now.